Meatloaf, please. Hey, guys. Welcome to the Unknown Sounds YouTube channel with me, Pete Saxer. Now, this video show features unsigned and independent bands and solo artists featured on the Unknown Sounds music channel. That's right. Now, with this channel, I spotlight very talented independent artists through interviews, music videos, and live performances, all the while, hopefully, having a bit of a fun time and a couple of laughs. And at the end of the shows, hopefully you will know what I already know, that independent music is the best music on earth. That's right. Okay, here comes the obligatory request for clicking on those buttons. Hit the subscribe button, please, the like button, and even leave a comment. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. It don't matter. I can take it. Really. Just do it. Tell me what you think. Now, if you like what you see today, tell your mates. Tell them, show them the links. Just get them over here, too. And if you want to be on the show, check out these links here. Oh, my goodness. Look at all those freaking links. Oh, forget about it. Just go to the top one, the link tree with Unknown Sounds with Pete Saxer link tree. You'll find everything there, including ways to submit your music and videos. All right. So here we go. Here we go now. Time for the show. Today, I am lucky enough to spend some time with a wonderful Americana folk singer-songwriter from South Texas, Joel Brogan. Hi, Joel. How you doing, mate?
Hi, doing well.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks
Now,
for having me.
Oh, anytime, mate, anytime. Full disclosure, both Joel and I were on the sidetrack with Pete and Robbie. We had a good time, didn't we? It was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
It was great. I really had a good time. I really enjoyed some of the music I got exposed to on that show. That was really cool.
Great. That's what we aim to do. So that's really cool. That was great. And if you guys want to see that, that's on the Unknown Sounds YouTube channel, as well as Sidetracked with Pete and Robbie. You'll see links everywhere. Oh, Joel. Okay, so you are from Texas, yeah?
I am, yes.
Were you born in Texas?
I was actually born in Missouri.
Oh,
State of Missouri, you know.
All
Left
right.
there when I was really young, but I still have a few memories of it, good memories of it. Mm-hmm.
So, but most of your time was spent in Texas, yeah?
Yes, I've lived in Texas since I was 6 years old, I guess.
Okay. All right. So that does qualify.
A long time.
Yeah.
A long time.
All right. So, you know what? Before we get started, let's deal with the elephant in the room about Texas, okay? Now,
Yes.
I heard everybody who's living in Texas on their 18th birthday, they get a very special call from the secret agency in Texas. You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
I'm not sure I do.
Well, you know what? So this agency of all the secret stuff calls you, and he tells you who actually killed JFK. Is that true? Mm-hmm. So, Joel, I know you can't say anything, but just nod your head if there was a second gunman on the grassy knoll. Or maybe it was the mafia? Okay, well, I can see that you're a great Texan and you're not going to give away the secret, so let's move on from that. So, Joel, for my audience that may not know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and your music.
Sure. So I'm a singer-songwriter, of course, from South Texas, where I'm living. I've been doing this for 30 years, I guess, writing songs, pouring my heart out in music, which was a good outlet for me. I've really been doing music as my main primary goal since about 2018, so I kind of got into it a little bit later. But I started playing shows, really revamping my songwriting at that point. I had been doing it a long time, but 2018 is when I really, started taking it more seriously and started looking into actually getting my music out there into the world, which, as any songwriter will tell you, songs are our little babies and we want to push them out into the world. And
yes. And we all know that pushing them out into the world can be painful.
It can be, yes.
Yeah.
It can be. Especially for a songwriter that really opens himself up and talks about some of the issues I do. It's not always easy.
Yeah. Well, when you first sent in your music to Unknown Sounds quite a number of years ago, and by the way, I feel I know you because of your music. It's quite intimate. Some of it's quite intimate.
Yeah.
But that's what struck me about it. The sensitivity that you bring to the words and the lyrics and the music as well.
Yeah. I always try to kind of bridge gaps that other people may not be able to express themselves, and so I kind of try to be that voice for other people who've gone through some of the things that I've gone through, been involved in some of the issues I've been in. So that's what I try to do.
What is your main instrument that you use in performing?
Guitar.
Guitar.
Guitar. Hmm.
Was that your first instrument?
Yes and no. My mother really tried to teach me piano because she's a pianist. That didn't work out too well, rebellious child. I regret that now. I can still tinker some things on the piano, but I wish I really had paid attention.
Yeah.
But guitar is my primary. My dad taught me a few chords, when I was about 13, and I kind of went from there.
That's cool. Very cool. So when you were growing up, there was music in the house, I guess, because both your parents were quite musical.
Yes, very religious music. My parents are very religious, so I grew up listening to a lot of religious music, church music, that kind of thing. But I always made time to like sneak a radio in and listen to other things
Yeah.
that were more relevant to the day. So
they didn't listen to any pop music at all?
very, very little, very little. And it's interesting because there's some of that music really did influence me. Like Roger Whittaker was one of their favorite artists. And it's interesting because a lot of people, when I say Roger Whittaker, they don't really know who I mean.
Oh, I love Roger Whittaker.
Yeah, I do too. And so, that was one of the few things that we listened to. And it really did influence me a little bit.
Yeah.
My sister was a huge John Denver fan, and I attribute most of my influence to John Denver and that music.
Yeah. That's, I can hear that in you, his sensitivity as well is, you guys could be, soul brothers. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I
great.
miss that guy. That guy.
I know. That was horrible tragedy. Horrible tragedy.
It was.
Plus, I loved him in the movie Oh God.
I just watched that. I had never watched it before.
Oh, right.
I didn't really realize that John Denver was in that. I knew George Burns was in it. I knew that.
Yeah.
But I was reading John Denver's autobiography, and he talked about being in that movie, and I thought, hey, gosh, I got to watch that movie. So it was really interesting. Yeah. It was really interesting.
And he brings life to it, doesn't he? It's so funny
really
to me with old George Burns as God and this young, vibrant John Denver. Fantastic.
Yeah. It was a cool movie. I'm glad I watched it.
Me too. And a lot of fun as well. Really funny.
It was.
Yeah, great. So with the church music, did you play music in church?
I did kind of later in life. I was involved with a church here in town for quite a number of years, and I was like the primary. When you're part of a small church, you kind of end up doing everything at one point. So for a while, I was the main music person for church.
Cool. But not when you were younger in the same church as your parents?
Not so much, no. Fortunately, they had enough people that were, playing organs and playing pianos. And so, and it was strictly piano and organ. I mean, there were really no guitars and that kind of thing. So, so that it was kind of interesting to grow up hearing that kind of music, and then later in life, playing kind of more the contemporary church music that's out there now.
Yeah. Well, when I grew up, I grew up in a tiny little town called Pine Beach, New Jersey. It was 1 square mile, and they had the Pine Beach Chapel, and it was evangelical congregational. And we had guitars, we had banjos, we had everything. It was a lot
nice.
Yeah, it was quite good.
Really cool.
When you write your songs, are they autobiographical?
Some are. Some I kind of just pull from stories I've heard, and even from dreams. I write a lot of songs from my dreams. But there's always a little bit of autobiography kind of thrown in for the mix. Yeah.
That's how come you can relate so much to your audience, and in your songs, because it's part of you.
Yeah. I guess it is. But I try really hard I'm very careful about how I say things in order not to ostracize anybody. I kind of
Yeah.
try to make my music inclusive for everyone.
Yeah, that's great. So your creative process, like you said, sometimes it comes from dreams and things. So are you one of these guys that carry around a notebook and write little things down all the time to compile lyrics and ideas?
I am. Yeah, I have some. Christopher, my husband, gets really frustrated with me because I have certain bags for certain outings, and I always have a little notebook in there that I'm, and he'll say, I got to credit him because sometimes he'll say things that end up being prompts, and I'm grabbing, looking for my little notebook and writing it down, and he's just nodding his head at me.
Oh my God, that could be a little bit awkward if you're like having a moment and he says something beautiful and you say, "Hold on a minute, let me just write that down."
Yes, that has happened, and he just shakes his head.
Oh man, that's great. That's fantastic.
But you listen as a songwriter, you listen for all those little things around you, and that's where songs come from, man.
Yeah,
just all the stuff that you hear around you and stories and even tall tales that you've heard. That's where it comes from. So
excellent. You said guitar is your instrument of choice. Do you have your guitar with you?
I do. I've got two sitting here, actually.
Wow. Would you mind putting one to use?
Sure, let's do it.
Fantastic. Oh, that looks like a fine guitar.
Yep. This one's name is Thurston.
Thurston. Wow.
Thurston.
Is that because he's thirsty for all the music that comes out of him?
There's a little story there, if you don't mind me telling it.
Oh yeah.
So Thurston is named after a part in a play that I was in with a very dear friend of mine who passed away a couple of years ago.
Oh.
And my character was Arliss, his character was Thurston. And so when he passed away, I decided to name this guitar Thurston, so I'd always have a piece of him with me.
That's fantastic, mate. That's great. Lovely. Okay, so let's hear you and Thurston play one of your songs off your new mini EP. Is it Trust the Trees?
Yes, the EP title is Trust the Trees. I think I'll do Flowers on the Road for you.
That's fantastic. I'll give you the stage. Thanks, Joel.
Thank you. Flowers on the side of the road, guide me to the places I should go, where I might find healing for my soul, places that I may have never known. Flowers on the side of the road, flowers on the side of the road, flowers on the road make me smile, make me stop and rest a little while. Forget about my worries and my trials as I walk across these many miles. Flowers on the road make me smile. Flowers on the road make me smile. I am just a traveler on the way, hoping I might find a better day. Flowers on the side of the road, teach me things I really ought to know. Doesn't really matter where we grow, long as you still let your color show. Flowers on the side of the road. Flowers on the side of the road. I am just a traveler for the day, hoping I might find a better way. Flowers on the side of the road, guide me to the places I call home. Flowers on the road, call me home. Flowers on the road, call me home.
Fantastic, mate. Lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the mini EP from Joel Brogan can be bought everywhere. But I use Bandcamp on a Friday, because what happens on a Friday at Bandcamp, mate?
So on Fridays, on selected Fridays with Bandcamp, Bandcamp actually doesn't take any of their fees for using their platform. So we actually get to keep all those little pennies that we get when people purchase music.
Exactly. So that's what I do. I wait for
Really
them
cool
to
thing.
come around, and that's when I buy my music on Bandcamp.
Great. Thank you for doing that. I wish everybody would do that.
Yeah, I always tell people that. Definitely. It's worth it. Now, that song is beautiful, and it's literally about stopping and smelling the roses and about the brevity of life, isn't it?
It really is. So that song, it's interesting. That's actually one of those songs that I wrote that I actually don't remember writing.
Wow.
It just happened one day. But yeah, so when I was growing up, we live in South Texas, and growing up, my parents and my grandparents from both sides of the family would get into the car and drive a little bit north, because along Highway 77, heading north towards Corpus Christi, there's wildflowers everywhere along the side of the road. And, I just have so many great memories of, life lessons that I got, hanging out with my grandpa and my grandma and my great aunt. And, and the really cool thing was kind of watching them interact, kind of the two different worlds, from my dad's world and my mom's world interact. And, kind of for that one purpose of, stopping for that day, heading up and looking at flowers and having a picnic. And it's just a really cool thing, And I look back at that now, especially when I drive up that way, I'm sad because there's so much destruction, because there's, road construction that they've kind of pulled out the medians, and, the little picnic area is gone. And, I have those memories, and I'll always remember, the words of wisdom that kind of got thrown around those days.
Yeah. And it's great that what brought two sides of the family together was really nature, wasn't it?
It really was. They were very different. My dad's family was northern. My mother's family was southern. Mm-hmm. So, those two different worlds would kind of collide in a beautiful way. So.
Yeah. And it also probably taught you about the value of nature, and hence why you are such an advocate for environmental issues.
Definitely. My dad's mother, my grandmother Jessie, was the one that really instilled a lot of that in me. She's the one that taught me how to bird. I'm a birder, so she would take me out into to what we call the Arroyo, Colorado area, and she would make me close my eyes, and she would say, "Okay, I want you to listen." I'm like, "Okay, I thought we were here to look at birds." I'm like, "No, we're going to learn to bird by ear." And so now, even to this day, I can be out in the state park or whatever we have nearby, or even in my backyard, and I can pick out, well, that's a green jay, that's a chakalaka, that's a titmouse, that's, and it's interesting how those little things that you don't think about when you're young, really impact you later in life.
Oh yeah, that's amazing. I wish I could do that. That really adds value to your life, I think.
Yeah. Well, except for when I go over there and I'm like, I don't recognize any of these bird sounds.
Yeah. Well, it's strange here because we're lucky enough. We have a little garden here, and we're on the outskirts of London. And my mother was always into gardening, so hence I was into gardening because I had to do it, and kind of the same thing with my wife now. But in the last few years, as I'm getting older, I'm really, I wouldn't say I'm getting into gardening. I do the heavy work still, but I love just sitting and watching. We got a bird feeder. They come in and just the way they interact, and the cats from next door. We got a frog pond, and now we've also got a couple of hedgehogs in our garden, which is great to watch.
Nice.
And and in the last month or so, there were new fox cubs, so they're around now.
Oh,
Four of them. Yeah. So yeah, it's really great. I've come to it late, but I wish I could. I'm barely now able to recognize birds, from sight, but through hearing, that would be great. My wife is very good at that as well, so that's great. That's a great talent and enjoyable.
Well, when I come over there next year, we'll have to sit near a garden and bird.
That would be great. That would be great. So your songs are quite they're acoustic and they're quite intimate. I can't see you playing to big audiences.
Right.
So
I don't really have that desire so much. I mean, I clearly I'm not an arena type concert guy. I'm more of a listening room and coffee shop, which is great because I enjoy that setting. I like to be able to, look into the eyes of the person listening to my song, and watch them have the connection.
Yeah.
I enjoy that. I love that.
That's what it's all about, I would imagine.
As a songwriter, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. You get a rush when you kind of see someone get your song. It's really cool to see that.
Yeah, I know. That's why when I see any kind of gigs or just a busker, and if I do enjoy it, I let the person know because I know that's all they really want. They want to feel fulfilled in what they're doing, and the way to be fulfilled is by affecting other people.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. That's great. So everybody out there, if you like Joel Brogan, and who wouldn't, get in contact with him. Let him know. Leave him some contacts on the social media. You can find the best way to get through to Joel is Linktree, Joel Brogan, Brogon. It's the most organized and most efficient Linktree I've ever seen. You can find everything there, all his social media, even his music, everything. It's great. So it's Joel Brogan at Linktree, definitely.
Yes.
And Brogan, it's an interesting name. Brogon, not A-N.
Right. So Brogan is, so if you look at it this way, bro and gon, right? So bro is the first part of my real last name. Gon is the first part of my husband's last name. And when we got married, we hyphenated our last names. So we have this huge name.
Well, that's great.
Yeah. So when I really got serious about, playing gigs and doing stuff, and putting my music out there, I thought, hey, I'm going to really need to figure out a good stage name. And so we came up with, I think it was my sister actually that came up with that.
Yeah, that's a great name. Perfect.
But I didn't really know there was a Brogan.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm forever fighting the battle now of, no, it's not Brogan, it's Brogon.
Yes, I always remind everybody that whenever I play your songs on Unknown Sounds.
I appreciate that. I really do.
Yeah. And I'm glad you didn't go the other way. You didn't go Gone Bro.
Yeah, that would have not sounded right. Maybe if I was a Muppet, Gone Bro or something.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so you're an advocate of environmental issues, and you're also a big advocate of the LGBTQ plus community.
I am, yes.
And that's because you're a gay man living in Texas.
I am,
and you were outspoken about gay rights, everything, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I've had the opportunity over my life to work with a lot of LGBTQ plus organizations, especially with youth, and just the heartbreak that you see, especially when kids aren't accepted by their parents, and even coming from a story like that myself, it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch. And so I've been lucky enough over my life to be able to kind of be that big brother in a way to people that, didn't have such a great experience growing up LGBTQ plus, and even older people that came out later in life, that start to come out and open up. And, as difficult as my life has been because of being LGBTQ plus, I wouldn't trade that for anything, because it gives me the empathy that I need to help other people.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. So, speaking of that, you released a song. You wrote a song and released it during Pride. Did you not?
Yes, I
Yes.
did. I did.
I always like that when they do that on television. What did you say? Okay, so
And then they say, "Look."
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Sounds like, it's almost like every newscaster now says, "Look."
Yeah.
So it's like, can we ban that word?
So the song you wrote was called "Underneath the Trees."
Yes, yes.
Can you?
So Underneath the Trees, that was kind of just one of those songs that came to me. The story came to me,
Yeah.
and I just kind of went with it. It's not autobiographical, but it could be anybody's story, especially somebody that grew up, earlier. And kids today, I sound like I'm 100 years old, but youth today have it very difficult. But we also had it very difficult as well. I mean, I'm almost 50 years old, so I was coming out during the Matthew Shepard incident and that kind of thing. You sound like you're familiar with that.
Yeah, I know that song.
Yeah, so that was actually a catalyst for me to come out, because I knew that I had to fight for my community. And but yeah, the song, back to the song itself, it was just kind of one of those story songs that came to me. And I thought, why not a kind of a sweet song? It's bittersweet, but it's kind of more of a sweet song about coming of age. And there's coming of age songs, millions of coming of age songs, and I kind of felt like there was one missing.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's where the song came out of.
It's great. Would you mind?
Sure.
Fantastic. I'll give you the stage again. Thanks,
All
John.
right. Lying underneath the trees, learning about the birds and bees in a place no one could see. Fell in love with my best friend, said I'd love him till the end, lying underneath the trees. When we'd lay together, knew we couldn't tell. They'd say we were sinners, heading straight for hell. Didn't worry all that much, we just craved each other's touch, lying underneath the trees. Basking in the afterglow, dreamed of places we could go, lying underneath the trees. We could run away together, live a life of love forever, someplace where we could be free. When we held each other, knew we couldn't tell. They'd say we were sinners, going straight to hell. But our love was growing deep, secrets got so hard to keep, lying underneath the trees. When his daddy found us underneath the trees, he thought we were praying down there on our knees. Well, I can tell you that's not true, that's not what young lovers do, kneeling underneath the trees. They sent him so far away, where he went they wouldn't say, never told heartbroken me. Cried and cried for weeks on end, till I couldn't cry again, lying underneath the trees. I still think about him when I feel a summer's breeze, wonder if he found someone he loved as he did me. When I come back to this place, I can't help but see his face, smiling underneath the trees.
Ah, that's great. I really, really like that song, mate. And I think you've done it a little bit different than I heard it on Bandcamp, isn't it?
Yes, I did do it a little different. It's easier for me to do it that way than doing, because as you're familiar with the song, there's a lot of finger picking.
Yeah.
And it's very fast. As you know, most of my songs are pretty much mid-tempo.
Yeah.
So this one's a little different. So
Yeah,
I found a better way to perform it live.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love the song. You know, it's a I love song, but it's one with a little bit of a twist as well. Because
Right.
you talk about how you want to be together, and after the quote, well, the breakup, the forced breakup, you still
Right.
miss him, wondering about him, and things like that. But at the same time, you're also included in that is that people are telling you you're damned, you're going to hell. He
Oh,
was
yeah.
sent away because they don't agree with the lifestyle. That's incredible. Were you ever told that you were damned and you're going to hell?
Oh, yes. Many times.
The way the way you say that is just like, yes, that was part of my life.
Oh, yeah.
It's just incredible to me that people
It,
go
it's
through that.
it's part of pretty much every gay person's life or anybody in the LGBTQ community. There is going to be someone at some time in your life, whether indirectly or directly, that is going to tell you that you are going to hell, that God doesn't love you, that you're a mistake, and what you're doing is wrong. It's just par. It's par for the course. It's
Yeah.
par for the course, which is very difficult and very hard. There's a lot of times. This is Pride Month. This is June. And a lot of people say, "Well, why do we need a pride? Why do you need a pride?" And because we survived what we went through, and we're proud that we survived, that we're still here.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes, very well said. But at the same time, though, if it was me, I don't know what I would do. I've never gone through that,
mhm.
which is, to me, it's a good and a bad thing. It's good because I've been lucky, but it's bad because I can't empathize. I don't even racially. I've never been slurred or anything like that. So
Mhm.
it's crazy. But if it was people saying those things to me, I would have to cut them totally out of my life.
Yeah, and
It
a
would,
lot of people choose to do that.
yeah. Have you done that? Have you cut people out of your life?
I have. I have cut some out of my life. I've cut people out of my life for periods of time and then reestablished relationships with them. My parents and I went through a thing where we didn't really talk for several months after I first came out. And that was very difficult because as much as I disagree with my parents and as much as they disagree with me, we've always been very close. But I will tell you, when I came out, it was very ugly. It was very ugly, especially with the religious background. And it just got to the point. I literally got in my car and was driving north and was going to leave everything behind and never be heard from again. That's how bad it got, And fortunately, my brother stepped in and kind of helped mend that relationship. But it was through, okay, you guys just need a cooling off period.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for that because we have a very good relationship today. They're still not, they're never going to, they're not going to wave a rainbow flag at Pride. I can tell you that. They're never going to do that.
Yeah.
But they, my husband and I go over for Christmas. We hang out. Father's Day, we were over there last Sunday and played Boggle. And, we have
Great.
a working relationship,
Yeah.
And I encourage something I always tell people is if you can choose relationship, choose relationship. Set boundaries, but choose relationship if you can. And it's also okay if you can't, because I understand that too.
Yeah. Very well said again.
Thank you.
Gosh. Wow. It's amazing because you've had a tough life and you've had to deal with a lot of these things, yet still that urge to produce beautiful music comes through and you do it. I think you are one of the best folk singers right now in the independent music scene.
Well, thank you. Thank
I
you
really
so
do,
much.
Joel. I really do, Joel. I've been a fan of yours from years ago when you first started sending me music.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And
Yeah,
also,
and I appreciate that you've been such an advocate for me. That's really cool, and I appreciate that.
that's okay. You don't need to say that, but thanks for doing so. Now, the first song you sent on Unknown Sounds was called Freedom, and
Yes.
at first I thought it was a cover of either a Pete Seeger or Woody Guthrie song. I thought Pete Seeger, but then I realized it's your song. You only do originals.
Right. I do very few covers.
Yeah, and that definitely wasn't. But what I'm trying to say is, they must be an influence on you because I can hear them in you.
Well, it's part of the canon. I mean, if you're a folk singer, you've got to have a background in Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger for sure. I mean, that's just you just have to.
Yeah.
And I really, I appreciate their music even more now, than I did, 20 years ago.
Mm.
In fact, I'm kind of in the middle of reading Woody Guthrie, a biography of Woody Guthrie,
All right.
and it's really interesting to see how he grew as a person, from very humble, poor beginnings, and he never lost that. I mean, those are the things that he sang about: the working man, labor, um, unions, that kind of thing. And that really inspires me because there's a lot of times anybody that's in music that says anything that's a statement or advocates for anything is going to have someone say, well, you should just stick to the music.
Yeah.
Like, well, Woody Guthrie would like to have a word. Pete Seeger would like to have a word.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And currently, Adeem the artist would like to have a word.
Mm.
Eliza Gilkinson would like to have a word.
Yeah.
So that's always been part of folk music, and that's what attracted me to folk music was, these are people that have something to say.
Definitely. They see issues that need to be dealt with, and they deal with them and make other people aware. It's really the first form of protest songs.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah. Years ago, I saw Arlo Guthrie.
Oh, wow.
Perform. It was a lot of fun. It was really fun. It was during the 80s, and it was right after the draft was in not the draft itself, but signing up for the draft was instigated. So he started singing the song. He said, I haven't sung this song in 20 years. I never thought I had to sing it again. And he started singing Alice's Restaurant.
Wow.
Which is all about the draft. And he did the whole 22.5-minute song. It was great.
I can barely remember a 2.5-minute song, so
Yeah, that was great. So do you write and sing your own songs? Do you ever collaborate with other musicians?
Yes, I do. In fact, what really got me back into songwriting, there was kind of a collective that formed back in 17, 18 at this little place called The Prelude, which was downtown here in town. And the guy that ran it was a really cool guy that was a professional songwriter. And, he just, he kind of became the godfather of songwriting here in the Rio Grande Valley. And I met so many great people, and, he would force those collaborations sometimes, which was really cool. Yeah. I got to work with so many great people and write with some people, and I still have relationships with them today. Prelude is gone now, which is very sad, but we still meet. We met all through the pandemic online, and we'd bounce songs off of each other. We would we'd listen to ideas and kind of push them one way or the other. So it's really cool to be part of that.
And you also collaborated with your last song, Underneath the Trees, with a band that we played on Unknown Sounds before, the Darren Holland Project. Yeah,
that was kind of came out of the blue. I mean, I've kind of been friends with Darren, and especially Jen Cat, who's part of Darren Holland Project. Occasionally, we'll sing with him. And when I put Underneath the Trees out, Darren contacted me. He's like, hey, do you mind if I play with that a little bit? I'm like, sure, go ahead. And he comes back with this really cool kind of synth pop remix of the song, which, I mean, I would have never put something like that out because that's just not my field.
Right.
So it was a really cool thing because it kind of opened up the song to completely different audiences that just wouldn't have heard the song.
Yeah, exactly.
That was really cool. And that's what's great about being an indie artist, is because you can connect with these people and work on these things. So that was a really cool thing to be part of.
Yeah, I understand. Recently I went down to Brighton and I saw a few bands, and I've known these guys, virtually through Unknown Sounds, but I never met them or anything. When I walked into that show, small room, there were like 4 or 5 people saying, Pete, hi Pete, how's it going? and I just felt like so at home. You know what I mean? We're all talking about all the different bands and all the different music, and it just felt like a brotherhood. It was really, excuse me, it was really lovely. I love
That's
that about indie music. And the other thing is everybody does everything themselves, you know? And so because of that, they know what other people, other indie artists are going through, and they help each other out. It's a real giving community.
Oh, it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I did some things in studios in the very beginning, and then it just got to the point, especially, I mean, the pandemic kind of threw a wrench into all that too.
Yeah.
And I started recording at home, and, I'd have folks like Brian Lambert and Brand Sheridan, call me up and say, hey, I've listened to your song. I thought you might want to try this. And Darren too, has given me a lot of advice, and, it's really cool that they care, people care, we care in this little enclave of indie musicians, and, we're always rooting for each other, and it's good. It's a good community to be part of.
Definitely. I'm going to ask you a personal question. Do you make money through your music?
No, I do not really make money from my music. That's one of those things that if you're getting into music to make money, unless you're a huge arena style artist like Taylor Swift, but she doesn't make money from streaming. She makes money from touring and concerts and merch, as the young kids call it now. Yeah. That's where the money is, and that is just not something that has driven me. Money doesn't drive me in what I do. It's never driven me. It's never been the goal. My goal has specifically been, I have something to say. It might help someone else, and I'd like to get it out there. So,
Well, I've heard that from many an indie artist. And when I first got into the scene, I thought when people perform, they get paid. That's the way it is. But no, sirree, Bob, they don't. And it's amazing to me that any indie music is produced, because most of them have to work full time, to pay their bills, and also to put their money into their own music, which is not cheap.
No, it's not. It's not.
Yes.
One of the CEOs of a certain streaming company, which I won't say, recently said, "Oh, it's basically free to create content these days." I'm like, so my time is worthless.
Yeah.
Explain to me how that is free.
Yeah.
So that was a very, hurtful thing for somebody to say,
Yeah. Crazy. All right. Well, Joel, thank you so much for joining me on Unknown Sounds YouTube channel. It was lovely. You're a lovely man.
Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me the space and opportunity. I appreciate it.
And we're going to be doing, for the sidetrack with Pete and Robbie, around Christmas time, we're going to try and do an international online concert.
Nice.
But hopefully going to you in Texas, if you're up for it.
Absolutely. I've got a holiday song for it.
Oh, so. Fantastic. That's great. And then maybe we'll go from Texas, maybe to Japan or Indonesia. It's going to be all over the place. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think. So I'm going to put you down. I'm putting you down.
Put me down. Put me down. Look, put me down.
Look. Fantastic. Joel, thanks again. Awesome. And for you guys out there, definitely contact Joel through social media. He's a wonderful man, a creative artist, and just a heck of a guy. So support him and go to Bandcamp on Bandcamp Fridays.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Joel.
Cheers.